Salut Frédéric.
Bonjour à tous. On va attendre peut-être une minute pour permettre aux autres personnes de se connecter. We are going to start in about 1 minute. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Frederick.
Sean, I'm going to do a short introduction, and Sylvina, I will ask you in one moment to share two tables we have discussed yesterday. But first, I want to welcome you, all of you, to this meeting. A special welcome to some workshop organizers who are not members of the program committee, but who have proposed to organize workshops in the conference. And so because they will have to review the proposals received for their workshop, we found important to invite them to join the program committee this morning. So, and also, as you know, this session is recorded, so our colleagues who cannot attend this morning can watch this session later, but also if in the forthcoming days, you would like to watch again some part of the explanations provided this morning, you will have an opportunity to do so. When I asked you to be part of the program committee, I think I told you that I had a planning for 3 meetings of the program committee. We had the first meeting in November. This morning, we have a second meeting, which is a webinar. And the main goal of the meeting this morning is really to understand how to review the proposals, how to process them through the platform used by the CPSA to manage these proposals and to craft the program of the conference. And also an important goal is to clarify the role of each of us. You have a primary role in this process. Sean is going to provide IT support, but Sean's role is much more than providing IT support. He's really involved in the operations to craft the program with Sylvina, me, and all of you. So the presentation this morning will be made mostly by Sean and will focus on the system. We will have a third meeting in a couple of weeks to share the experiences you have to deal with, to discuss some problem you have experienced, or to discuss maybe some specific problematic proposals you have in your hands. And a doodle will be sent on Monday or Tuesday next week to schedule that third meeting. After Sean's presentation, there will be a Q&A. So Sean, I, and Sylvina will be available to answer your questions. And after that, I will be available to discuss with you any other issue or answer any question you may have regarding other aspects of the conference. So is this agenda okay for you, or would you like to add some items to this agenda? Okay, I don't see any hands up. So before turning to Sean, I would like to present you 2 tables. So Sylvina, if you can share, please, The timetable of the conference, I think we will start with that. This is a tentative timetable for the conference. It is, if you are familiar with what the timetable was last year, you won't be surprised because it is directly inspired by the structure of the conference schedule last year. So basically, the conference will be organized around 3 main time slots of 90 minutes each, starting at 11 in the morning and ending at 4:30 p.m. In the afternoon, Eastern time, across 5 days. So we will have the IDID CPSA committee is planning a roundtable as a pre-conference activity on Friday, May 27, but the conference is scheduled from May 30 to June 3. So across these 5 days, we will have 3 main time slots of 90 minutes each. And so we hope for about 13 sessions for each of these time slots, where the bulk of the section sessions are going to be scheduled, except a limited number of plenary events like the presidential address, the keynote address, maybe one more, but this is the core of the conference schedule. In addition to that, we have 2 series of early time slot and later time slots. So before 11 a.m. and at 4:45 Eastern time in the afternoon. These time slots were used last year for some selected events scheduled in less busy moments, but also less attracting moments, especially for members in the Atlantic provinces or in British Columbia. So we keep these time slots for very selected activities like some social activities, the 3MT competitions, some roundtables, and things like that. So I wanted to show you this tentative schedule so you have a more clearer idea of what the conference schedule is going to look like. We also have a second table, which is a report of the number of proposals we have received. The table Sylvina is opening shows the number of proposals we had received. This is a table up to date on February 1st. These figures are not the final figures. There are a certain number of proposals which have been submitted or people who have experienced technical problems. They are not included in this table. Also, I do know that some of you have already been contacted by some colleagues who told you, I have a proposal. Is it still possible to submit or to send you my proposal? Yes, it is possible. So at the end, we expect that the final number of proposals will be around 500, which is very similar to what we had last year, and which is also similar to what we have had in our, I will say, less popular in-person conferences. In some cases, we had less than 500 proposals for some in-person conferences. I would like to bring your attention on the range of proposals received across the sections. The proposals are allocated in this table to each section based on the first choice, the first section selected by the participants. So there are some sections with a huge number of proposals. Canadian politics is not a surprise. Political theory is also very popular, as well as IHAR. On the other side, there are some sections with a very small number of proposals. Public administration is one of them. And this is certainly partly explained by the fact that CAPA has decided to hold its own conference in person, I don't know where, in late May. So this has obviously impacted the number of proposals received for public administration. We also have a small number of proposals in teaching and professional practice, which also is not really a surprise. But take a look at provincial and territorial politics in Canada and beyond, 13, political economy, local and urban politics. It is important to highlight this range of proposal because this is a moment to work as a team. I told you that these proposals were allocated based on the first section selected by the applicants. Most of them have also selected a second section as a second choice. So if you manage the proposals in one of the, let's say, most popular section, and you see that you have a certain number of proposals whose second section is one of these less popular sections, well, it could be a very good idea to forward these proposals to your colleagues in public administration, teaching, professional practice, political economy, local and urban politics, and so on. So it could be easier for them to craft interesting, well-themed panels if they have a little more proposals to work with. And one last thing, as we have this table in front of us, there's also a diversity in the number of proposals received for the workshops. Workshop number 2 have received about 20 proposals. Jean-François and Alex, who organized workshop number 4, told me that they are fine with these 8 proposals because they have a number of other people in mind they will invite to present a paper in order to have a 3-panel workshops. But Angelia told me for workshop number 1, identity mobilization in Canadian elections, if the sections head who co-sponsored the workshop, so political behavior sociology, race, ethnicity, indigenous peoples, and politics, and I will say also Canadian politics, find in their proposals some which are related to the theme of identity mobilization in Canadian elections, Angelia and Joanna will be very interested to take a look at these proposals. And Sean will tell you later this morning how you can do that. So thank you, Silvina, to share that screen. And I think I'm ready to turn to Sean for the explanations about how to use our platform.
Thank you, Frederick. I'm just going to share my screen over here.
And I will say that at any moment, if you want to raise a question on a very specific point discussed by Sean, and don't hesitate to raise your hands or to use the chat. I'm monitoring the chat, and also we will have a Q&A after his presentation.
Thanks again, Frederick. So today I'm going to get you through the process of reviewing your proposals assigned to your sections and workshops and building out your program for the 2022 conference. Before we get into the review, I do have a few notes to give you regarding access to the call for proposals. So if you have already signed up to the system, I have assigned the sections and workshops to you. If you log in today, you should see your assigned proposals for your review. If you have not registered to the system, please contact me following today's presentation and I will get you access. Those sections that have more than one committee member, like IR and Law and Public Policy, you will have access to the proposals. You will both have access to the proposals. I do suggest that you coordinate your program so that only one of you actually builds out the session. With the 3MT submissions falling under teaching section, both of you have access to the same list of proposals, but you will see that the 3MT are clearly identified when building out your programs. And last point, not only do we have a team of section heads, we also have a team of workshop organizers that either currently have access or will be given access to the appropriate workshop submissions. Where there is more than one person assigned to the workshop, I do suggest that you coordinate with your program so that only one of you actually builds out the sessions. All of this will make a little bit more sense as we walk through the platform, so let's get started. So from the Call for Proposals homepage, we click on the login button on our top right. And when you log in, each committee member will see 6 buttons for administering their individual programs. The first 3 buttons in blue, these have to do with submitting an actual proposal. This allows a committee member to enter proposals they have acquired outside the Call for Proposals system for their section. These are the same options our submitters use during the Call for Proposals process. The next 3 buttons are for administering your program. So we're going to get started with the red button that says Review Proposals. So this screen will list all of the proposals assigned to your section. On the screen, we have a few pieces of information about the proposal we can see in our table. We have our ID number, our paper title, our submission date, the type of proposal submitted, the panel title if it is assigned to a pre-built panel, the section it was submitted to. We have a section for notification. This will eventually receive a check mark once the proposal is approved or not. And then we have a status, and here we will either see submitted, approved, or rejected. Clicking on the title allows you to review each of the submitted proposals. So starting from the top, we can see the proposal ID number. We can see the submitter's name, the affiliation, and their email. If you want to see the extended details of the submitter, so their actual profile, we would click on the Review Submitters Complete Details link right here. And this will get you to the user profile of the submitter, where you can look at all of their extended details, their rank, their gender, their sponsor's name if required, and all of their affiliation and institutional information. So back on the proposal page, we have our title. We have the section the conference, the proposal is assigned to. And as Frederick mentioned, we gave the option for them to provide a second section that they believe their proposal could be assigned to. As we scroll down, we have this drop-down menu here with all of our different types of submissions. Just above that, it indicates what type of paper we have. So for this submission, we have a single paper proposal. So all we're going to do is we're going to select that from the drop down, and that is going to open up all the extended information the author has submitted with regards to their proposal. So we have the abstract, and then we have the author details. This is sometimes extended out into multiple authors here. Finally, at the bottom, we have a check button that we will discuss this a little further later, but we have asked our submitters to let us know whether or not they are willing to serve as a chair or discussant if required in the program. If for any reason you need to make an edit to a submitted proposal, you can do it at this time and then select the Update Proposal button at the bottom. One of the most popular edits you may need to use is moving a proposal to a different section. So let's look at the reasons we might need to move a paper. First, if you decide the proposal is better fit in another section, sometimes indicated by the conference section second option, you can change the first option to the new section, and then you scroll to the bottom and hit Update. The second reason you might need to move a paper would be to add it to the program committee category, sometimes referred to as the proposal parking lot. This allows all section heads to see the proposal. If you do not believe the proposal is in good order for the conference or for your section, we would ask that you move the proposal to the program committee category. And that is found closer to the bottom of our drop-down list, CPSA Program Committee for internal use only. Another reason you might need to move a paper would be with some sections not receiving as heavy a submission count as others, feel free to send some of your proposals over if you feel they fit the overall category and theme of that section. So as an example, I'm just going to back out to our list here and show you an example of moving one of our proposals to a parking lot. So I have a training example submission here, submitted by me. I am going to select the program committee as my option for my section because I don't believe this fits into my section and the author has not provided me with another sample of where it may go. I also need to make sure that I do select the paper type here so that all the extended details get updated as well. So I'll update that proposal, and what the database is doing is it's simply taking it from one category and moving it into our parking lot. While you're reviewing, we do ask that before you decide to reject any proposal for the conference to please offer it up to the parking lot for any of the other sections to review and possibly adopt to their section. Please contact me if you do require more assistance with this task, as it is one of our most popular editing features that we see the section heads use every year. Once that is posted through, if you get back to your table here and scroll to the bottom, we can now see that this proposal has been assigned to our parking lot. If I am the head of IR, if I log in, I will see this at the bottom. If I'm the head of law and public policy, I will see the same information at the bottom. If you want to take that proposal and bring it back into your section, you click on the title, you would select your section from the drop-down list, make sure you select the proposal type, and once again, hit Update Proposal. So that's it for reviewing the actual details of the proposals. If it is a roundtable, you'll see all your roundtable details. So if there are any questions at this time about actually reviewing the individual proposals, I'll open that up for questions right now. I see Robert has his hand raised.
Hi, thanks
Hey.
very much. One person who was making up a panel for proposals, when she entered all the information in the panel and the other people put their paper proposals in, it didn't show up as necessarily belonging to that panel. Is that going to be obvious when we're in the system? Because it looked, from her end, she thought it looked like there was like 4 different separate papers proposals then, and there was no connection to the panel.
So if you are submitting a panel, so let's go back to our front page here and we will look at, so as a submitter, I would have used the submit panel option. So I guess what some people did is they went individually and submitted their papers hoping to find that that panel existed. The process had asked the individuals to actually submit the panel as a whole. So typically and historically, we've seen individuals gather all the papers from people and build the panel themselves. So with our option this year, you would build your panel information in here, the theme, the abstract, and the section. Upon submitting that, you're asked to then submit all the individual papers and it gets attached. If we go back to our list, I'll show you an example of, so as we scroll down, so right here, so this was a panel submitted and this is the title of that panel. And we can see all of these papers here are assigned to that panel. This allows you to go in and actually look at these papers individually. We hope that this panel was assembled in a good way so that we don't need to reject an individual paper within the panel, but that's basically how it was built. If you know of individuals that did it the way you just described it, please let me know and I will attach the papers together. But as we get into the build program section in the next part of the training, you're going to see how you can actually craft and build your own panels together as well. Okay. Okay, so now that we've had a chance to review our proposals, we are ready to start building out the program. So back on our homepage, we have a build program button. To get started, we simply want to click the create a session button. We will talk about the details in this table after we've set up our first session for today. Just give it a second here. Okay, so when we get into the creation of the session, we can see many options for creating this session. The most important being the title. If you create the title for the session, you can simply save it and get back to the remaining fields later. So let's look at some of the fields. First, we have our title field. And we have a note up here indicating that for all roundtable sessions, please start your title with roundtable. For all workshop sessions, please start your title with workshop. This later helps us with organizing the master schedule. Next, we have our session code. This assigns the time slot that your session will be assigned to. The time slots currently available are not finalized. Time slots are currently being reviewed and will be updated on the builder very soon. I will add a note to the builder when they are ready to be used. Next, we have our subsession. So a subsession, for those sections that have many proposals submitted, there's a very good chance you will be running concurrent sessions. In other words, Canadian politics could have 2 to 3 sessions running in a single time slot on the same day. If this is the case, we ask that the session be labeled with a subsession. Example would be if you have 2 sessions running in the first time slot, the first session would be subsession A, the second would be subsession B. Next, we have a field for chairs and discussants. Where a roundtable or a pre-organized panel was submitted, the chairs and discussants have most likely been determined. However, for the single paper proposals that will be built into your session titles that you are creating as a section head, you are responsible for finding your chairs and discussants for your session. We will assist by providing all of you with a list of submitters who checked off the option in their submission, indicating that they are willing to serve as a chair or discussant if required. This list will be available after we determine which proposals are not being accepted for the conference. Okay, so let's continue on. We have a field for your session sponsor. This is where you will add details of any sponsorship you may have for a specific session. For example, there may be a special roundtable session on a specific issue that gets sponsored by, let's say, MyTax. This is where you will add the sponsor's name. Below that, we have joint session. This is used when two sections have decided to coordinate on a session or sessions. We simply want you to indicate who the joint session is with. And at the bottom here, we have two notes sections. So as indicated here, these notes will appear in the conference program. So if you have a special roundtable, the abstract is probably already attached to it, but if you have extended details or information about a special guest, this is where you would put that information, and this will be seen publicly in the conference website. If you have notes you want for yourself as reminders for later when you are building this program, you can add those notes in this second field here. They will not be public. Okay, so we're going to go to the top and we are going to create a title. And I am not going to really add many details here. I'll put a subsession and I will do my sponsor and my joint session. And I am going to create that session by selecting the Create Session button at the bottom. You can go back to your sessions. And now that the title is complete, we are ready to start adding proposals to the session. I'm going to describe this table here first. So once again, we have a code for our session. We have the title we just created. We have the time slot we've assigned. And in turn, it will display what time that is, the start and end time. We have the section it is assigned to. And then we have the number of proposals assigned to that title. And then we have a build and edit button. The edit button will allow you to go back in and edit the details you just provided for your session. And right now, what we're going to focus on is actually building out our session. So we are going to work on training session number 2 title, and we are going to click the build button. This is where we can begin to add proposals to our session. As we can see at the top of the build page, all of our session details are listed. And as we scroll down the page, we can see 2 sections that contain the proposals. The top section states the following proposals are currently assigned to your session. At this point, we haven't assigned anything, so there are no proposals listed. Underneath this list, the second section states the following proposals are not assigned to any sessions. From here, we can select one or more proposals we would like to add to our session. If we need a quick reminder of the proposal, you can view the details by clicking on the session title, and it will open up in a separate tab for you to go through and actually re-review the details to make sure you are collecting the correct proposal. Close that window, you are back to your builder. And right now I'm going to take just the top 3 right here, check the radio button, click to the bottom, and we're going to add the selected papers to our session. Now we can see that in our top section here, we have these 3 assigned. I can remove them by simply hitting remove. Now we have 2 assigned, go back in, add some additional proposals to that title. Once again, scroll to the bottom, add the selected papers, and we have built out our first session here. So if we return to our table, to our sessions table, a few things have changed. First thing that's changed is the delete button has disappeared. This is because the session now has proposals attached to it. If you need to delete the session, you must go back in and unassign those proposals to that session. The second thing that has changed is our number column. We can see now we have 4 proposals assigned to this session. And that is basically it. It's pretty straightforward on building these out. I believe you will spend most of your time in the reviewing the proposals section. That is where you're going to get all these specific details about it. And in my experience, using offline Excel sheets, Word documents, assembling this on paper, any way that works for you is the best. At the end of the day, you come back to this tool and you can easily build out your program. And before I move on to some final notes, I will point out the 3rd button on the home page here. And that is a how-to video series I put together to assist on the platform. There are a couple things to note with the videos. They were made a few conferences ago when we were doing live conferences, so some of the fields and instructions are a bit different. We no longer need to assign room numbers and room sizes to the sessions. Another important thing to note is that we have changed up the process a bit when it comes to sending notices of acceptance or rejection for the conference. Instead of each of you going in and administering the notices, we ask that you send me a list of any of the proposals that you will not be approving for the conference. As this list is usually pretty small, we can send out a mass email of acceptance to all the remaining group. We will confirm at the end of my presentation today when we would like to have that information back to me so that we can get the notices out. And last note here is, as I understand it, this Zoom call is being recorded and will be available for you to review the process that we went through today. And before my final notes, are there any questions on building the program? Eric has his hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. One is the time slot, like 11:30 to 1 p.m. How do we know, and there's an A, B, C, D to put several in one time slot. How do we know if we should put several in one time slot, or we should just, I mean, is this just a kind of trial and error in terms of figuring out time slots, how many fit in one time slot, or whether we can put them over, we can fill up all the time slots with one panel over the 3 or 4 days? That's the first question. The second question is, in terms of the list of proposals that are not accepted and sent back to you, does that mean that we should therefore take note of the proposals that we send to the parking lot, as well as the ones that we send to the second choice? Is that what constitutes rejection? We therefore make a list of those and then send that to you, besides sending to the parking lot and sending to the second choice?
That's a very good question. I understand that confusion. So yes, if you do believe that a proposal should be rejected based on its merit or based on the qualifications of the individual that is submitting, I would like you to let us know that through direct email to me. But we do ask that you do put it in the parking lot, because that proposal may be interpreted by another section head in a different way and may adapt to what they're looking for to build out any of their sessions. So because there are so few rejected in the past few years, we've had some very high quality proposals submitted. I would like a note to me, and I will keep track of those ones that you do believe should not be a part of the program. But we do ask that you do put them in the parking lot.
Okay, sorry, but the ones that are sent to the second choice division, that doesn't constitute rejection.
No, not at all. So so you can bypass the parking lot. If you want to take that out of your section and instead assign it to that other section they've asked for, it won't end up in the parking lot. It will go in the queue of that section head's list.
Okay.
Yeah. And to go back to your first question on building out the programs, this is up to you. This is based on how many proposals you have. So when we look at concurrent sections, so the first time slot in the morning, Canadian politics will typically will need to have a few concurrent sessions running. So they will have the A, B, and C. If you are in a group that you can divide 4 papers out, say you have 24 papers and you want to just build out 6 sessions over 3 days, it just works out perfect. You just have 1 session in one time slot, 1 session in the next time slot, and you don't need to use the A, B, C, or D. Those are primarily used for the larger sections, and where they have no choice but to run a concurrent session.
Okay, so in other words, it's good to have a kind of, with pencil and paper, do a kind of big picture sense of how many total one's likely to have in one session, and that'll give us a sense of how many time slots we need. It's kind of big picture format, and then we get a better sense of the micro.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes you might stick to a theme in a certain day with your proposals. That's typically what the workshops like to do. They're all about a specific theme, so their workshop will run on day 1 and fill out all the time slots. So,
thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Eric. Royce.
Yeah, thanks for the talk, Sean, and thanks for the clarification on rejecting papers. feels like the first thing that I should do is the head of a larger section is I should go in and find a bunch of papers that I can send to smaller section heads. Should I be like maybe writing those people ahead of time saying, hey, I've got these ones. Is it okay if I send them to you, or do I just do it? Just dump them on them.
I guess I will leave that up to you. You can actually reach out to the section head ahead of time and see if they would like them offered in that way. The easy thing to do as well is just to copy the title and the abstract and put it in the email from the platform here, and just give them an idea of what you are sending their way. I'm going to leave that up to all of you to manage that internally as a team. Phone calls, emails, anything that works to coordinate this so that we all work together to build a master program. So yeah, I will leave that up to you, but any which way you want to do that, please proceed and do that.
Okay.
Royce and Sean,
Yeah.
if I may add a
Absolutely.
specification here. Imagine that you see that for one proposal, the second section choice is political economy. And so you you change the first choice section from political behavior to political economy. The political economy section head will not receive an automated notification of that. So in order to avoid surprises, because maybe as the political economy section head, I have proceeded my proposals and I think that, okay, my job is done. It will be nice to receive from you an email to notify me that, okay, you have reviewed your proposal and you forwarded me through that process, 1, 2, or 3 proposals.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fred. If you could maybe make that one sheet available with the number of proposals in each section, Phyllis, that would be good, because I've already forgotten what the smaller sections are. Thanks both.
Yes, I take note of that.
Thank you both. Dwayne?
I've got 2 questions. The first, I was just doing some rough math here. So the IR section's got 50 proposals. If we look at 3 papers a session across 5 days, we're looking at 45 spots for 50 proposals. Assuming that we don't move some of them or reject some of them, is the idea that we would have a concurrent section? So maybe on May 30th, there would be 2 concurrent sections at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or that we would move into one of those extra time slots either later in the afternoon at 4:45 or early morning at 9:15. Which is the better option on doing that?
Well, that's a very good question. I wouldn't be able to answer what the better option would be, but I do have to say from experience last year that we ended up requiring those extra time slots for those when we couldn't get the math to work towards the end, to be honest. We definitely needed to open up those time slots to allow for those extra sessions to go. So for the time being, it would be probably better suggested to stay within the brackets of the standard time slots for the conference and to run concurrent sessions. It's unavoidable. It's something that even in the live conference, in my experience, all the larger sections we're running concurrence in 3 different rooms in the universities. So if you feel that you are constrained by the amount you have and you can't get those into other sections, then we can look at having a special, not a special time slot, but adding those into those extended time slots.
Yeah, and we're close. It would be like an additional 2 time slots if we get in a few stragglers after the deadline, maybe 3 time slots over the course of the week. The second question is dealing with co-chairs, right? So Anissa and myself are doing the IR section. How do we go about doing this? I mean, this layout that you've described seems like a single person. So do we pick different days to try to fill out and then negotiate after? Do we pick a time where we sit and work on it together? Like, what's the best approach here? What's been done in the past?
That's an excellent question. And I touched on that a bit at the beginning. I'm going to touch on it again in my final thoughts. And I would ask that one of you become the builder. Get on Zoom calls, work together to do this, but you almost need to get one person to do it. And the reason I say that is you each have individual assigned logins. And if you start building papers into your panel and your colleague goes in to do it, those papers aren't available for them to look at because you've acquired them into your build. So when there are two people that are assigned to a section, I ask them to pick one person to be the builder, and you work as a team to build that out, but to have one person kind of administer and engineer the program from the builder platform. And that goes for the workshop heads as well. We have a few workshops with two people that will be running the workshops. I do ask that you do coordinate with each other on who will build, and then set up some time together to manage and produce this.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
If I may jump to follow up on one issue raised by Duan, and this is also a question from Angelia. As the section heads, you make the decisions regarding the number of papers per panel. This is the type of decisions that you make. My advice would be to target 4 papers per session. 5 is too much. I advise you to avoid 5 paper panels. There were a good number of 5 papers panel last year, and it was really a problem and a source of complaints from our participants, especially since the duration of the panels last year was 75 minutes. Even with the extension to 90 minutes, I personally believe that a 5 paper panel should be an exception. Of course, I think a 5 paper panel is better than a solo paper panel. But on the other side, if 3 papers per panel is the standard, first we will have a huge number of sessions scheduled in the same time slots. And second, there are some participants who are going to withdraw from the conference before the beginning of the conference. And so along the road, we will see an attrition of the number of participants. And so moving from 4 papers to 3 papers in a panel, this is not a problem. Moving from 3 papers to 2 papers, I think it makes a session a bit less interesting and attractive. So my advice would be target 4 papers per panel, but at the end of the day, the decision is up to you.
Thanks again, Frederick. Benjamin.
Yeah, is it possible to export all the proposal like in an Excel sheet or something? And so is there a way to do that? It seems that it would be maybe easier for me to just like organize everything on Excel and then put the final kind of program in this like in the software. So
yeah, for sure. So I don't have the option on the site for you to do that right now. If you reach out to me, I will give you a CSV dump of your section. I understand that with the larger CSV being an Excel file, so that it's in tables and you can review the details of the proposal. That would be just for the core details. So you'd get the session title and the abstract, and then the authors themselves. So yeah, so for the larger session, I do agree with you that it's a lot easier to look at everything on a single page and manage that way. It's kind of the way we used to manage this conference many years ago with Excel sheets and paper documents. So yeah, if you want to reach out to me, I will provide that information to you on an individual basis. Don't tell anybody else though. So, Eric.
Yeah, sorry, just another question.
Sure.
You had mentioned that when a session chair moves a a paper proposal to another session, we don't get notified about it. And Frederick had said recommending that people email each other. But is there on the platform a place where even if we're not notified that we would see, we'd have to go and look for things that have been moved to our session? Is there a collective place where you could see that?
No, there's not. And that's why Frederick had brought that up, that there needs to be communication between each of you, because someone may have worked all this entire weekend and went in and started building their program because they've already had great ideas for their program in place. And then they look at it 2 weeks from now and there's 7 other proposals there. Communication is a big part of this all the way to the date of the conference. Let's get in contact with one another. Maybe not do it in individual papers, kind of collect your ideas together and do it in a batch if you need to. But yeah, I would suggest you do contact these individuals to do that. And reach out to us if you do need help with that. And yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Go ahead, Robert.
Sorry, I might have missed it. I was distracted for a moment, but is there an absolute number of panels that we can accept for each one of us section heads?
When you say panels, that would be the pre-submitted panels?
No, I mean, in general, like when we're building all of our panels, like what's the absolute, because I've got a lot of papers.
Yeah.
I'll be shifting some, but I mean, there's infinite space on Zoom. You know, but am I going to have to be making hard decisions or, like,
Not
there
necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. Last year, our 2 largest sessions, they were running concurrents in every time slot. So we had 2 to 3. I'm just going to use Canadian politics as an example again. Literally in every single time slot, they had 3 sessions running. So the math may say that you need to possibly push a few of those over. You don't want to reject them, but you want to pass them over to your colleagues. It's up to you. Manage it in a way you think is comfortable for you to manage it. As Frederick said, we don't want to exceed that 4 paper count. Just based on last year's experience, we need that time for the Q&A. We need that time for all the work that chairs and discussants have put into delivering their final thoughts. It was very important and missed a few times in a few of the sessions last year. So 4 papers, fill out every session in the day if you need to, and run as many concurrent as you think you need to run. We will be looking at this as a whole later as you build this out, because we also want to be able to manage only a certain amount of sessions running in a time slot. So we don't want everybody to cram everything on the first day and the first morning, because we want to cap that as literally only 13 sessions running. So that means if Canadian's running 3 and IR's running 2, that's already 5 of those 13. So that means some of the fewer smaller ones like public admin or whatever will not be running, let's say, even on the first day. Maybe they don't start running their sessions till day 2. Excellent. Well, that looks like all the hands are down now. So I just have a few reminders again.
Excuse me, Sean.
Yeah.
In the chat, we have a
Sorry.
question from Kwang and Yin, who is a workshop organizer. Has Frederick mentioned in the previous email for the workshop, if I recruit additional paper presenters among my personal network, then will these people be able to submit their abstract on the CPSA website, or will they email directly to the workshop organizers? I think and tell me, Sean, if I'm correct, these people would not have access anymore to the CPSA platform. So I think
it's a
they
very
have to process in another way.
Yeah, it's a great question, because we do expect you to receive some other proposals. You may reach out to your networks to get a few more into your section. And I didn't go over it much in the training, but this is what the public would have seen, are these first 3 buttons on the front page here. You will need to get these details sent to you through email. So you are asking primarily for the title, the abstract, and all of the author details that are required when submitting. So you would come here, you would put your title, you would select your workshop from one of the options below. You would select your session type is typically a single paper. You're going to add your abstract in here, and then you're going to go in and put in all of the details of the author: first name, last name, email, their institution, their job status and title, and their department. Once that is done, submit the proposal. You'll probably get a notification that you just submitted a proposal because you did on behalf of another colleague. And then when you go to review your proposals, you will see that in your list. But yes, you do need to get that information sent directly to you because the public facing submission is closed at this time.
We also have a question or a comment of Alison. Well, Alison had a similar question. Alison Smith is our 3MT competition coordinator. And Alison, I will be in touch with you and Dax in the forthcoming days about the 3MT competition, because we have received a very small number of proposals. So I think there are some additional promotion we can do for that. So we didn't have time to deal with that this week, but we will in the next few days.
Yeah, I was going to also just maybe suggest that to the extent that there are PhD or MA students who've submitted to other panels, like whether they're accepted or not, that it might be, if it seems promising, to maybe let me know. We might be able to encourage those people to also submit to the 3-minute thesis competition as well. But it's good to know that that there's ways of adding in more people, because we'll try to bring that number up. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm just going to wrap up here. So just some reminders again from the beginning of the presentation. If you have already signed up to the system, I have assigned the sections and workshops to you. If you log in, you should see your assigned proposals for your review. And if you need assistance with your password, please reach out as well. If you've not registered to the system or you are not seeing your assigned section, please contact me following today's presentation and I will get you immediate access. Those sections that have more than one committee member, like IR and Law and Public Policy, you will all have access to the proposals. And as mentioned, we need a producer and we need an engineer. So I do suggest that you coordinate your program so that only one of you is actually building out the sessions. This goes for workshops and for 3MTs as well. And now I just have a few final important notes for all of you to keep in mind. So there are many moving parts to the conference. Even though you build up a great session, there is always a chance that the author will back out at the last moment. This happens for many various reasons. This may mean having to drop a session and add the remaining author or authors to another session. This happens all the way up to the conference date. Once the timetable is established, it is up to you to go back into the builder and assign your time slots. Certain slots will be blocked off for any special sessions that are happening. And once again, I will put in big highlight and bold letters on the builder that the time slots are now available to be used. And once your sessions are pretty much established, we start rendering what we call a conflicts report. This indicates whether or not an individual is in more than one session at a time. We will be moving sessions around quite a bit in the last month leading up to the conference. If for any reason you have solicited a special guest, chair, or discussant on a session that can only make it for a certain time slot, please let us know, and we will make every effort possible to move the conflicts around that person. Thanks for listening, and I am looking forward to working with all of you for another successful CPSA conference. And that is it for me, and we can open things up for any additional questions you may have regarding the proposals and the platform itself.
Yes, in the chat, there's a question from Alex Rivard, who is asking, how do we contact you, Sean? Is there a specific email address to contact?
Yeah, so I guess as a follow-up, we will email the section heads and workshop organizers. I can possibly ask Sylvina to go ahead and do that and provide them with my email contact. I have too many emails, so I need to decide which one to use.
Okay. Robert has one more question.
Sean, for the people who have only specific times that they can be there, do you want us to be sending you emails, or can we put that in the notes on the session, down in the little note section for the internal notes?
Oh, you mean if you solicit somebody and they're locked into a certain time and you can't really move them around, kind of thing?
Yeah. Do you want to be receiving 1,000 emails from us on that, or is there a place in the system we can just jot that down?
I really hope we don't have too many of those, to be honest, because just on experience last year, we did do a lot of shifting. As hard as you work at putting your program together, there's some inevitable decisions we need to make at the end to kind of get our 13 sessions per time slot in order. But yeah, if they're, please put it in your notes. And if it is of extreme importance, because this is an extra special guest, please contact us directly and we will make sure we can lock in that time for you.
Sean Hurley, in the presentation, you said that toward the end of your presentation, you were going to provide a timeline we have in mind for sending the notification of acceptance and non-acceptance. Do you want to provide the details, or do you want me to answer that question? It is a question from Benjamin.
If you could please answer that question. I know you and I met last night and I wrote it down and I'm not sure the date exactly.
Okay, so at this stage, we have the goal to send these notifications by March 22. We are going to hold a follow-up meeting very likely the week of February 28th. We initially planned to hold the follow-up meeting in 3 weeks from now on February 25. But Sylvina found that the week of February 21 to 25 is the midterm week in, I think, 13 out of the 16 universities we belong. So, and I'm afraid that you will not like me if I invite you to a meeting during the midterm week of most committee members. So I think it will be a very good thing if you have reviewed the proposals and if you have crafted most of your panels by the week of February 28th. So we can discuss the issues you have to deal with in that meeting. And then we'll have a couple of additional week to edit everything, to make some changes, so you may complete the process after the meeting. And so in order, and Sylvina may jump in the discussion as well, if we plan to send these notifications by March 22, it will be good to have all your decisions by, let's say, March 17. So that is the time frame, I would say.
Excellent. Thanks, Frederick.
Jonah?
Jonah. Hi, Jonah.
Hi there. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm good.
Great presentation, and I'm really pleased to see it from this side as opposed to being the president last year. One of the things, though, I just remember from last year, after everyone had done all their work, was the challenges that you faced in trying to make sure that the sessions were spread across the whole conference and not all piled up on day one or day two. So I just want to sort of reinforce that for everybody to think about, the fact that not everyone needs to be presenting on day one or day two, that those other days are important. And especially if you're going to have multiple sessions, don't put them all on the same day. And let's think about how our workshops fit in with everything else, because we certainly had sometimes last year where we had 20 sessions trying to be set up on a Monday or the first day, and then 5 sessions in another time slot. So be prepared to have your sessions moved around, but let's do our work as best we can in advance to spread things out as much as we can as well. So that's just, I just wanted to say that.
Super, thank you. Eric.
Yeah, thank you. Just one last question. Again, on the all the moving parts. So if a proposal is then sent to another division for assessment, and that other division decides to reject that proposal, does that constitute? So I guess my question is, do I have to inform, since you want to know if a paper is being rejected? And one way of doing that is to send it to the parking lot. But if another way of papers being moved around is they're sent to different sessions, and then I also reject that one that was sent to me, do I also have to inform you that that one is being rejected?
It's a good question. I'd say just please contact me, because like I said, to be honest, I think we rejected maybe 8 proposals last year. So it doesn't really turn into that big of an assignment when it comes to these. And they were very apparent that they needed to be rejected based on what was being submitted. Based on the count now, so like we said, we are going to receive more proposals based on a few I have in my queue that had some IT issues getting them submitted. You will each individually add more proposals to this program, but by the time we get to the conference, I can't even make a guess right now, but there are quite a few people that drop out at the end. So those numbers will go down again. So we try to not reject many proposals. If there's a need to, because of the quality, then we need to. So I think just on an individual basis, let's just keep in contact, just saying, I'm putting this into the parking lot. I really don't think anybody's going to take this proposal. It just does not meet the needs of this conference. Just those little notes to us help in tracking these down. And at the end of the day, whatever's left in the parking lot, if people have not pulled those into their sections, I have a snapshot of what the database looked like on the day we closed. So I know where those originated. So I will reach out to the originator of those proposals. If it was you, Eric, that it was in your queue, you moved it out, someone acquired it, now they want to reject it. We'll just deal with those on an individual basis, and we will get those notices out to those individuals that their proposal is not being accepted for the program.
If I may add a point here, we all know that there are some conferences where the acceptance rate is very low. This is typically not the case at the CPSA. I have heard in the past that some chairs of the program committee have decided of a target like will take 80% of the proposals. Why a such target? I really don't know. I think we try to be as inclusive as possible, especially regarding our more junior scholars. On the other side, it is true that we also have to we have a responsibility to make sure, or let's say, to try to have a very good quality conference. It is frustrating when we attend panels with poor papers. So we want to avoid them as much as possible. And we are able, I think, typically to recognize those proposals made by people who don't seem to understand what a conference paper is or what the conference is about. So, of course, in these cases, it is important to flag these proposals, not to accept them. But like Jonathan Malloy did with the committee last year, I would recommend you not to spend a lot of time to carefully weight the quality of each proposal, because we are not asking you to reach a target of 30, 50, or 70% of acceptance, you know. I don't see other questions in the chat. Of course, there are a certain number of people who have joined us after the start of the conference. So in the forthcoming hours, or maybe on Monday, you will receive an email with Sean email, the table of the number of proposals received by section, and also a link to the video of that session, so you may watch again or watch for a first time if you missed some parts of the presentation. I have a couple of final information or advices to give you. Silvina, if you are ready, could you show us what the draft of the acceptance and non-acceptance notices look like, just to give our program committee members an idea of what the message will be?
Yes, of course. Sean, can you stop sharing? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So we do not ask you to send these notifications. It will be made by this CPSA, because we want to be sure that every people receive exactly the same information. And these notifications will include very specific procedural informations regarding the registrations, the code of conduct, some deadline information, and so on. But you have here a draft of this notification. Silvina, do you want to highlight some of the information featured in these notifications?
Yeah, can you hear me? I don't know if
Yes.
Okay, so this is the non-acceptance message in English and in French. This year, this is just a small change. Instead of we will add we regret to inform you. And here is the name, the title of the proposal. And then we have the same text in French. And here, and this is sorry, this is just for your information. You are not sending this, is Sean who is sending these messages based on your instructions. So this is the non-acceptance notice that was the rejection notice back in 2015. And this is the acceptance notice. There you will find the title of your presentation, and then important 2 more steps. People have to confirm their attendance, and then they have to review the participation information and fees section. And then we have the same text in French. And when you click, you will have these options. When you click here, ici, quand vous cliquez ici, or when you click here, you will have these options. I accept to present this proposal, I decline, or I decline to present this proposal, but a co-author will present. And I just want to, do you have any questions about the acceptance, non-acceptance notices? Seeing none, I just want to convey, we will have a code of conduct. This is just a small message from the board. The board met in December, made some changes to the code of conduct we use for 2021. I am very glad to report that Jonathan Malloy will be our code of conduct arbitrator. And when the board met in December, they asked us to send a message to the program committee about the importance of the code of conduct. And they say, whenever you pick a chair for your panel, not only think about the academic skills of this person, but also about their capacity to organize the discussion. And the code of conduct will be posted very soon on the on the conference website, because we will remove this banner about the call for proposals. So any questions?
Thank you, Silvina. I think that a major part of the work you have to do from now will be to, of course, to craft these sessions and also to reach out with people to chair these panels or to be discussants in these panels. I will ask you to be careful in order to reflect the diversity of our community as much as possible when you compose these panels. You know, I have been a member of the board of directors from 2015 to 2018. And yesterday I said it to Silvina, when I was on the board almost every year, when the program committee chairs reported to the board, some board members asked questions or made observations that, well, I have attended a certain number of panels at the conference where all presenters were men, etc. And Silvina told me, oh, that was 2015. Now the concerns regarding diversity is much broader than men and women in the panels. Of course, you don't have extensive demographic information about the presenters. You also have other constraints because, I mean, these panels must be built to put together papers on a similar theme and so on and so on. And you have to work with the proposals which are behind your, in your hands. But I ask you to be as careful as possible regarding that issue, which is important for our community. And in the same way, I will say it is also true when you make decisions regarding who you invite to chair a panel or to be discussant in a panel. So yes, think about the academic skills of these people, also their personal skills, if you know these people, their personal capacity to manage carefully the discussion in a panel, and also to reach out with people who are as diverse as possible to fulfill these positions. I think our members will appreciate that. So we have invited you to a 75-minute meeting. It is 20 past noon. So we are basically at the end of this meeting. But before closing, if you have questions or if you want to ask questions regarding other issues, it is the time to do so. And you know that anyway, you can reach with me by email at any moment, as well as with Silvida and Sean to one of his many emails address once he decided to which email address he wants to receive our messages. So thank you very much to all of you for your attendance, your engagement in this process, and more important for the work, the hard work you are going to make in the forthcoming weeks. And we will meet again in 3 or 4 weeks from now for a follow-up and to discuss the specific cases which needs to be discussed. Alors, merci beaucoup. Have a good weekend, and we stay in touch.
Merci, bonne journée.
Thanks, everybody.
Merci, Frédéric. Merci,
Thanks,
Sean.
Frederic.
Salut.
Thanks, Sabina.
Sorry, Sean, can you stay on for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
I
I never hang up. I always
just
know that someone's going to hang out at the end.
I was just speaking to my co-organizer for workshop 4, Jean-François Daou. Neither of us yet have access to the proposals.
Okay, have you ever actually used the platform before?
I mean, like I've submitted proposals to CPSA before,
Oh,
but I've
you
never
have.
been an
Okay,
organizer
so-
or anything like this. Yeah, it's with this time. It's with a new email though, so I wonder if that might be the case.
That may be the case. Yeah, exactly. Do you want to just put your email in the chat here and I will change what I have in the database for you?
Sure.